Honestly, social media is how I sell way more books than traditional media these days. I could get a feature in Vogue. It's not going to sell any books, but I get like one viral post and it'll sell 1,000. Like, it's just how this works these days. I look at my 7-year-old and I'm like, oh yeah, you could completely handle social media. Like, you could definitely choose like what is good, what is wrong, what is right. You're not going to go down like some weird rabbit hole. Like, you're great. When I look at my 5-year-old daughter and I'm like, social media will f you up.
All right, welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast that covers the intersection of culture and commerce. And today we are going to cover, I think, influencer culture, a little murder mystery, maybe some trad wives. And Jo Piazza knows a little bit about all of those worlds inside and out. She hosts the acclaimed Under the Influence podcast. It's a new subscription of mine, and maybe it should be yours too. She pens sharp pieces for all of your favorite publications, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and writes bestsellers. And the newest, Everyone is Lying to You, drops on July 15th. Jo, welcome to Future Commerce.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. That was a great introduction. I want you to just like follow me around and introduce me to people all the time.
Thank you. Alicia, you're a fan. I'm a new fan. Jo, we're kind of covering this beat too. I think Trad Wives is the subject of your new book. What's so fascinating about Trad Wives?
Oh my God, what isn't so fascinating about trad wives? I cover the world of influencer media on Under the Influence, and I've been doing it for about 5 years. And since then, I've watched this multi-billion-dollar industry like grow and morph and change. And about a year ago, I started seeing these trad wives in my feed. They're these women who are like quote unquote domestic goddesses. They're always in these long, flowy dresses. They have about 9 children. They're often somewhere vaguely out west and running around a chicken coop barefoot, which, by the way, if you're a person who has chickens, you would never walk through a chicken coop barefoot. It is disgusting in there. They kind of like, they're promoting this like very idyllic nostalgia for a world that never really existed. And they're called trad wives because they, adhere to very quote unquote traditional values of a woman should stay at home. She should not be in the workplace. The man should be the main breadwinner. And they're also selling you a ton of crap. And so a lot of these women have millions of followers. They're selling you their high protein flour. They're running these massive businesses while also telling you that women shouldn't be working and earning money.
And that's, I think, a really great setup for the kind of thing that we cover a lot of. Tell us a little bit about your background. And you sort of have a background in journalism and investigative journalism.
Yeah. I mean, I've covered everything under the sun. I started out in newspapers when print newspapers, were still the main place that you would get your daily news right around 2000. And I thought that I would be working in print newspapers for my entire life. I started out at the New York Times, the New York Daily News, and then I watched the internet pretty much completely blow up the world of media. And I moved into magazines, digital, social. I was at Yahoo for a while. I helped them launch their digital travel magazine. And then I got into podcasting about 10 years ago. So, and I've watched my own career morph in ways that I never thought it would. I really thought when I graduated college, and I graduated in 2002, that I would work at 1 or 2 places for my entire journalism career. I had no idea that I would have a new kind of job, not even a new job, but like a new kind of job almost every year. And
Yeah.
It's exciting and also a little bit scary and nerve-wracking, to be honest.
Is there a new job every year? What about journalism gives you a leg up in writing fiction? And I mean, we're looking at 2 very different extremes of your career from like the beginning to the end here. This isn't your first fiction book.
Yeah.
So how long have you been writing fiction, and what parts of your professional career inform this new arc of your career?
Yeah, I've been writing fiction for about 10 years now. And I do approach all of my fiction the same way that I approach my reporting. I report the hell out of everything. I interview experts. I dig into archives. I dig into data. that's the way I really like start to form stories and also to get excited about it. Like I like to build a fictional world that feels a lot like our reality and our real world. And I've been interviewing influencers, like I said, for 5 years on the podcast. I've been going to these influencer conferences. In the book, there's an influencer conference called Mom Bomb, which a lot of the stuff that happens at Mom Bomb is very funny, but it's also all stuff that I saw happen in real life at these influencer conferences. And one of the things that I think is so interesting about the world of influencers is I also covered both politicians and celebrities for a long time. I started my career as a gossip columnist because it was the only job I could get and still stay in New York City. I knew nothing about celebrities. And all of a sudden I was going to all these red carpet events and parties and movie premieres. And I think it's such a good training ground to do any other kind of writing because you're getting people to talk to you that don't really want to talk to you. And then I moved on to covering politicians from celebrities, and then, the line between politician and celebrity got completely blurred. In the past 10 years, I used to cover Donald Trump when I was at the gossip column. He would call me all the time if we wrote anything nasty about his hair. It was just like personally call me to tell me that he was not wearing a hairpiece. But covering politicians and celebrities ended up being really fertile ground to then be covering influencers because, they're very charismatic. They're the new celebrities. I mean, I actually get crazy when people are like, oh, the new media, the social media. And I'm like, it's not new. Like social media is media. It's here to stay. Like more people are consuming these videos of influencers on their phone than are watching any TV show at a given time. Like it is so influential. And so I think that all of that journalism really prepped me to first be covering influencers and then to write about influencers as fictional characters.
So you recognized the pattern, Joe, and like how our behaviors were evolving and how influencers were essentially becoming the new celebrities. In many ways, they're more impactful than celebrities in this day and age. But I'm curious, as you started to dig into this space and as you started to unpack, who's doing what and what pockets of communities are being formed, I'm curious, did you have any moments where you were aligning that research with your own personal behaviors? Because I know one thing that I feel and experience as someone who covers this space is I'm like, oh, like I fell victim to that. I fell into the trap. I bought the thing because they said so. So like, how did you kind of align your own personal behaviors to identify possible paths and areas to cover?
Girl, I'm constantly falling prey to influencers selling me stuff like every day. And you would think that I would be so immune to it by now. And I'm not. I'm not at all. It's really hard. Okay. They're really good at what they do. Well, I started under the influence because I had just had a baby 5 years ago and that baby did not sleep through the night. So I was up holding her pretty much all night. And my only appendage that was free was my thumb. So I'm scrolling Instagram. And that's when I first started. Sorry, my throat's so scratchy right now. That's when I first started being served influencer content. I was looking at all of these picture perfect moms and they were all trying to sell me something. So I bought the sleep course. I bought the organic swaddle. I bought the baby food. I was buying all of it. And that's what made me so fascinated about this kind of marketing because I was like, oh my gosh, like I bought all these things and I didn't even realize I was being sold to. Wow. And it's gotten so much better now than it was 5 years ago. I mean, just so much more professional than it was 5 years ago. So I'm constantly falling prey to it. What I don't fall prey to is like the shame and guilt because I felt a lot of that in the beginning. When you're following a lot of these women online, you're like, oh my gosh, their life is perfect. Why is my life not perfect? And now I know, and this is where the title of Everyone is Lying to You came from, that everyone is actually lying to you. Like they're creating a magazine. They're creating a TV show. Most of this is not their real life. And so when you look at it like it's actually media and not like a glimpse into someone's window, I think then you can let go of some of the guilt and the shame, but you're still going to buy the shit.
I think that's a really important call out because I've noticed too that the influencer landscape tends to fall into these different pockets, or I guess you could say like watering holes, right? Like there are like the mommy influencers, there are the wellness influencers, there are the beauty influencers, the fashion influencers, and then all of their content ladders around some sort of in marketing, it's called like a pain point, right? But it's really a deep-seated insecurity.
It's a deep-seated insecurity. Yep.
Or a problem. And that's really how the messages and the curation is formulated, which I guess I would love your take on this, because what I find ironic about it is the big selling point of influencer marketing from the brand perspective is, oh, these people are authentic and they're transparent. Like, was there a particular tipping point where you noticed this really shift towards more editorialized, more picture perfect, as you indicated, versus that more like raw and direct approach? I mean, I still see it once in a while, but definitely not as much.
You don't see it as much because brands don't want it. They genuinely think that it doesn't sell. The brands want something glossy and photoshopped and beautiful. They still want the kind of like magazine editorial content that they would get, but they want it on Instagram. And so, we saw the evolution of like the mommy blog, which was really raw and honest and started coming up in the early 2000s, to this mom female influencer ecosystem. And Instagram was created essentially to be a magazine. The founders said, they're like, we want it to be Vogue in the palm of your hand. We want it to look aesthetically pleasing. They never wanted it to include those like raw, real images of life. They want it to include a filtered version of life, hence the filters. And so, now we are seeing all of these picture perfect lives. One of the things that I realized while I was writing Everyone is Lying to You in my reporting is that you can now rent entire houses for your influencer content. So you can rent out a house with like the beautiful kitchen, the pristine countertops. You can even rent a bathroom that's beautiful for your like getting ready with me routine. And then shoot all of your content in it for one day. It's not your actual freaking house, but no one knows that. And so I have a whole plot point in the book where there's actually a shadow house in the main influencer's house, where she has like one half of the house that is just for the influencer content, and then the other half is her actual real messy real life house. And you would think that it's satire and that it's far-fetched, but at these influencing conferences, I actually met people who were renting out like Airbnbs for influencer houses.
It's funny. This went around in the male influencer space for a little while, especially like there's a particular type of a male influencer that likes to show off expensive cars and watches. And but the thing about guys is they like to out each other about this. And so they would like track it down and be like, oh, I know where you rented that, or I know whose watch you rented or borrowed, because guys are particularly catty about things like this.
I love guys being catty. It's like one of my favorite things.
When you're talking about pain points, Alicia, what I find really interesting about trad wives is that this seems like an emergent pain point, and this is like a factor of modernity, right? And that we all experience this feeling, this like latent feeling of I don't know what Svetlana Boym might have called like nostalgia, or like painful nostalgia. It's like we all have this feeling that maybe the trad wife aesthetic is trying to soothe, where we all have we have this we yearn for some simpler time, or we yearn for some simpler feeling. And even tech companies are trying to sell something to you to solve it. Like, what solves your tech addiction is more tech.
More tech.
Have a minimal phone now. You need some, like, just buy one more thing and that'll solve your problems. And that's what I find so fascinating about trad wife content, is that they seem to be creating a new solution to a problem that people sense they have but couldn't put a finger on. What is your take on that?
Absolutely is the thing. I mean, a lot of the trad wife content is so appealing because there has been so much burnout, particularly for women. My generation, I'm 44 years old. We were told to lean in. We were told to be girl bosses. We were told to hustle. And we did it. And in a world where we had no support system, where, corporations were terrible to women and mothers. And so, of course, everyone was burning out. And this trad wife lifestyle seems like the antidote to that in a lot of ways. And they're really capitalizing on those pain points. I mean, a lot of the things that you're seeing are like, were you burnt out by the 9-to-5 hustle? Just stay home, quit your job, garden, homeschool your kids. Oh, by the way, let me also sell you my gardening clogs and my like egg gathering apron. Because if you just buy this, then this is going to soothe all of your burnout. So yeah, I mean, I think it absolutely is tapping into something that all people, but especially women and especially mothers, are feeling right now, this burnout, this being stretched too thin. And maybe the answer is to check out, but check out and also buy all of these things from us.
I'm not going to put you on the spot, Joe, but
You can always put me on the spot.
did you have a parent that stayed home?
I did
house?
not. No.
Okay.
Both my parents worked. I was just classic, like 80s, 90s latchkey kid. Essentially, my babysitter was Oprah and Phil Donahue. I'd come home, I'd watch TV, and then I'd like go out and run around our neighborhood until it got dark, and then I'd eat a TV dinner. And I mean, also, I'm a full-time working parent. I'm lucky enough that I work from home. So I like do get to like take the time off to do things at my kids' school and be with them. But I have full-time childcare too.
Right.
And my kids are in school. And I could not do any of this without that level of support. So, and I can imagine that if I were going back into an office, I worked in, media corporations for a long time, that I would feel excessive amounts of burnout. I remember watching the women that were older than me, like trying to juggle it all, trying to manage it all. And they were exhausted. So I completely get it. The problem is in the messaging, right? Like we can't have women checking out of the workforce full stop. The majority of American families can't support a family on one income. And I always say, I'm like, the funniest thing about the trad wives is they're, encouraging all of these women to like quit their jobs and rely on a man. I'm like, where are all these rich men that just want to like, just like make enough money to support a family? I mean, the average, income, the average male income is something around $60,000, and the average American household spends $70,000, right? So like the math does not add up in this equation. And I think it's really dangerous to tell women to give up agency of their lives. And I unpack that a lot and try to flip it on its head in Everyone is Lying to You. You see the influencers, first off, you see like the reality of their lives. I love that you brought up authenticity because I have one influencer character in the book, and she opens her chapter by saying there's a right way to be authentic and a wrong way to be authentic. And, the right way to be authentic on social media is to, share just like a little bit of your trauma, but like never let them see you cry, like never have messy mascara. It's like, it's faux authenticity is what it is.
Are there particular figures that were interesting or archetypes for you in your research for Everyone is Lying to You? Like who stands out in this movement? I know Hannah Neeleman comes to mind, but like, are there others that aren't such household names? Like who are sort of some archetypal people?
Yeah. I mean, Hannah Neeleman always comes to mind, right? In fact, I'm getting a lot of questions. They're like, is this book based on Hannah Neeleman? And I'm like, no, it's not based on any one person. But, Nara Smith, of course, she's one of the big ones. A woman named Brooke Ray Bold, who talks about running her household of, I think, 4 or 5 boys like a business. And then, the algorithm serves me so many of these women on a regular basis without me, honestly, even searching for them at this point. I mean, it is funny because we were talking about mom stuff and like being sold the shame around the pain point. I'm now kind of out of it because I don't have a newborn anymore. So now I'm just being sold protein influencers, like women in their 40s and 50s.
Me too. I think we have the same algorithm.
I think we have the same algorithm. It's like, these 4 things will melt your belly fat. And I'm like, nothing is going to melt my belly fat except for Ozempic. Okay. I'm well aware of that. And yeah, so it's really funny, the kinds of influencers that I'm being served right now. It's like, it's all trad wives and all protein moms.
So going to your point about the algorithm, because it does have this way of evolving and kind of bringing us down these rabbit holes based on all these little clues, I guess, we drop in our behaviors. I'm sure that's an interesting process for you as a journalist because you are so deeply rooted in research all the time. I know I find myself down paths I did not expect. Do Did you find yourself going down a similar journey while writing this book? Like maybe you had an idea for a character or a plot point, but you ultimately went down a completely different direction because of that research process, or maybe what the algorithm told
Oh
you
yeah.
to do?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, every time I went deep into henfluencing unexpectedly. I suddenly, like, one hen influencer led to another hen influencer, and suddenly all I was seeing on my feed were chickens. And henfluencing is such like a massive space. Again, I think it's like this nostalgia for, like, a different time, like a simpler time, when really, like, having chickens kind of sucks. Like, my friends that have chickens are like, this is really hard. Chickens are jerks. And they're filthy and disgusting. But the hen influencing space, I was so deep that I created a henfluencer character in the book, and then also an aspiring henfluencer character who's just like, I just know if I could break into chickens, like, that would be my big break.
Influencing is the portmanteau I didn't know I needed today. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm sure that nobody like really looks at this as like making money. Like, I'm sure somebody out there is trying to justify like trying to justify, like, am I going to like make out in the end by making bread at home or like having eggs at home?
Mm-hmm.
I have a family member who will probably see this at some point. So I'll tread lightly. But they have chickens, and I've seen them have to build like a really stout coop because you've got coyotes and all the other things.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of inputs definitely, I don't think, outweigh the outputs because well, I guess, the cost of eggs. The cost
Mm-hmm.
of eggs keeps going up. Maybe they'll make out in the end, but
Right.
that's a very, very expensive coop they've had to build. But I think that a lot of this is just, I think people are just looking for something different. And
Yeah.
I think people want to feel like they belong to a different tribe
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of the same out there these days. And I don't know, have you quantified how many people are really into this as sort of like a subculture? Is this a counterculture, or is it large enough to be considered a subculture at this point?
Oh, I think it's large enough to be a subculture at this point.
Huh.
I definitely do. And you're so right. Like, what you never see on the henfluencing accounts is, well, first off, like, all of the chicken shit, but then also, you never see the aftermath of when a bear pulls the door off the coop and eats all the chickens.
Wow.
Which is what happened to my friend Sarah's chickens last year. And now she has to have this electric fence, which is not pretty at all. Which you never see in any of these henfluencers images. You don't see, like, they bait the fence with like peanut butter so the bear touches its nose to it and then gets afraid of the fence. You never see any of that. But I do think that, like, people are now getting into it in a very calculated way. Like, in the very beginning, I do think there were some accounts that are like, you know what? I just like bread. I like baking bread, and I'm going to bake some bread, and I'm going to show some pictures of it. But now people are like, oh, wow, you can make money off baking this bread. So, like, there's like definitely a kind of like structure and a rhythm to what people are doing and featuring in order to grow their audience so that they can sell you more things.
I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about. I mean, it's pure economics at this point. And I mean, frankly, I say this too, we're all brands. I mean, we're all trying to like create something online. I'm very honest about this. I'm like, I want people to buy my damn books. And so, like, that means I have to post on social media. I have to go and like see what is doing well, what is going to get me eyeballs, because, being a full-time book marketer for my books is exhausting.
Yep.
But honestly, social media is how I sell way more books than traditional media these days. I could get a feature in Vogue. It's not going to sell any books, but I get like one viral post and it'll sell 1,000. Like, it's just how this works these days.
You're making such a great point, because the type of person that listens to this is somebody who sees an influencer as a channel.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at that, so, they've reaped a ton of benefit out of influencer culture, if you will. And I think that there's definitely duality there. I think that the real ones know, and people who are tapped into this are the real ones. They'll say it's a double-edged sword. Like, we are creating the problem at the same time as we're reaping the benefits from it. So what do you think that we can do? What benefits are there in the influencer ecosystem that can be had, or what can we do to try to negate the offset the negative points?
Well, I mean, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. When I first started covering influencers, they weren't being covered well by mainstream media. I still think they're not being covered well, particularly female influencers. A lot of male influencers are like, referred to as entrepreneurs, and, female influencers are like momfluencers, right? Like it's a lot of the work is dismissed, and it is work and it is labor. And I think it is pretty incredible that women have been able to create their own businesses and make their own money outside of the traditional corporate system in a ways that has allowed them to have more flexibility to raise their children, right? Like, I think it's great that women can much more easily become entrepreneurs just by like using this little device you can hold in your hand. I actually see no future where any of this is getting better, to be honest, or ways that we can mitigate some of the bad things about influencing. I think it's going to get a lot worse and a lot weirder real soon, because we're already seeing AI move into the influencing space. There's entirely AI generated influencers. A lot of influencers are using AI to generate their content, to write their captions, to find the things that are going to go viral. That's just going to get crazier and crazier. And it's also, the algorithm is getting better and better at targeting directly to you as an individual. So I don't really know what we can do to mitigate the madness of all this, except, embrace it and then get off our damn phones. It's really funny because since I cover this space, and then also I have to do a lot of influencer-like things to sell the book, I don't consume social media like a normal human. So my best friend lives down in Nashville, Tennessee, and she's like, you never comment on my posts. Like, Marina had a cheer off the other day and you didn't like it. And I'm like, I don't look at social media like you do. I'm not scrolling. I also don't get served my friends' content. I go in, I look for what I'm looking for, I post, I get out, I turn it off. And like sometimes, but the times that I get sucked in, it's like when I'm like hungover or like really tired, and then I'm like starting the endless scroll. I think we have to try to limit ourselves. Like, it's each individual saying, okay, I'm not going to do this endless scroll anymore. And also, teaching kids not to get onto it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And teaching them media literacy from a very, very early age. I think that we should be teaching media literacy in schools right now, starting in kindergarten. Like, my kids are very media savvy about like, what is YouTube? Who owns YouTube and who benefits from YouTube? And like, what does actual news look like? So yeah, this is kind of like a rambling, sad answer, but like, I think it's just like personal responsibility is the only thing we can do to mitigate the damage.
Very on brand for Future Commerce answer, by the way, though. It would jam with our audience. I have to agree, though. And I would say, too, we, for all the problems that Florida has, and there are myriad problems, probably infinite. The one thing that Florida public schools have done very well, in my experience, is that starting in third grade, my children started receiving media literacy training. And Florida Public Schools teaches children to spot disinformation starting in third grade. And they teach them to spot sensationalist headlines. They teach them to spot clickbait. They teach them to spot. And I tell you, that is an unbelievable godsend, because my kids are very adept already at being able to say, they look at something and they start asking out loud, what are they trying to make me feel? And that is an unbelievable skill to have in the modern age,
Yeah. That's great. Oh my God, I had no idea that Florida did that. I love that for Florida.
Yeah, it's probably the only thing to love. But I think this is a question. We're sort of touching and butting up against a topic of maybe detox to some degree. Are there any recovering trad wives?
Oh my God. Yeah. So many.
Yeah.
Actually.
Is that a topic that you get into in the book at all? Is this something to maybe unpack? Because I think that might be its own weird type of content itself that like could be exploited.
Yes, and yes, and yes. It has been. It has been. Yeah, there are a lot of women because I mean, if you are actually a woman in a quote unquote traditional marriage where you have totally checked out of the workforce, where you have, handed over all financial decisions to your husband, there are many, many, many ways that can go badly. And so there's a whole genre of recovering trad wives, of women who have escaped the trad wife lifestyle. And that's actually one of the major plot points of the book. It's the evolution of a traditional wife, kind of just like wrapped up in a crazy thriller plot of how she's trying to break free from this lifestyle and still own her own media brand, right? And it has become a very interesting and also viable subgenre of content on social media. The women escaping the trad wife lifestyle, because everyone loves a controversy.
And you need a plot arc. I mean, like you can't just like we already did the one thing. You got to do the other thing now.
I know. Well, and with a lot of these women, if you think about plot arcs, like for these influencers' lives, and I wrote about reality television for a long time. I wrote this book about 12, 15 years ago called Celebrity Inc., How Famous People Make Money. And it was like really the early days of celebrity branding. I mean, when I wrote the book, Charlie Sheen had just been paid for the first celebrity tweet. The Kardashians were literally just coming up. And I had a whole chapter on reality stars that really, really maps well onto influencers. They have to keep creating arcs for themselves in their lives. And one of the ways to do that are marriages and babies. And there's a reason that these influencers have so many damn kids. It's because it gives them a new boost of content every time they have a pregnancy or have a baby.
Well, and then that's a possible content offshoot, right? Like as the kids get older, maybe they start creating their own content, which is an entirely different landscape and also a bit more disturbing as we get into kidfluencing.
Totally. But we saw that with the rise of the Kardashians, right? I mean, they're like, it's such a great business model. You had the 4 core members, and then all of a sudden you had this entire universe of Kardashian Jenners all over the place.
I was just going to jump in here around the point of this just getting bigger and weirder and, a bit more disturbing. I do want to go back to the point around kinfluencers for a bit, because that space is starting to get some legislative attention. But maybe this is the pessimist in me. I feel like there is like too much money to be made in this space for people to actually care. And I'm curious, because you cover this space so holistically and you speak to so many experts and creators as well, recovering trad wives even. Do you think this space in particular, kidfluencing, has so many negative repercussions that it does have the chance to maybe get on a better, possibly cleaner track? Or am I rightfully being pessimistic that there's just too much money to be made there?
There's just too much money to be made there. I mean, we are going to see, like, there is some legislation now around kid influencing. None of it is really going to hold much weight at all, because it's a major, major market, and we're just going to see it get bigger and bigger as more and more kids also are using this content and using this technology earlier and earlier. And when you talk to some of the kid influencers, there is a whole generation of kid influencers who really didn't have a choice but to be in their parents' content. But now you also have a generation of kid influencers who are coming up saying, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm going to start my own business. They're like 7, 8-year-olds. I mean, even my son,
right?
He loves the Mark Rober physics YouTube videos. I love me some Mark Rober.
Oh, our son should talk. It's like the same vibe. Yeah.
And so that's like one of the few things we let him watch on YouTube. But then there was a Mark Rober, Mr. Beast crossover. And I'm like, I don't like the Mr. Beast for you. So we're like, we don't go down that rabbit hole. But I got him one of the Mark Rober approved domino sets. I was very influenced to buy it, like the tip over dominoes. And Charlie was like, we should start a domino YouTube channel, man. He's like, we can make so much money. And I'm like, you're 7. And also, yes, let's do that. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's going to get more and more out of hand, but I think also kids these days are pretty smart and savvy, and they also have agency, right? And they see the fact that this is the future, that influencer is a viable job. And that, going forward, everyone does kind of have to be their own brand. I mean, my dentist is really good at social media. And they're like, I never thought I'd have to, like, I'm a freaking dentist, right? But they're like, if we want to attract new clients, like, this is what I have to do. I have to be a dentist brand on Instagram. And I think all, for better or worse, that's the direction that we're all moving in.
When I grew up, it was like people who had access to the internet and people who didn't, right? And then, I grew up without a computer in my home, and had friends who had computers, and they had the internet, and I had to, if I wanted to use the internet or a computer, I had to go over to a friend's house. And we're the same age, Joe. So I felt like I was at a loss. Like I was like at a deficit because of that. And it also feels like there's definitely a savvy, or some sort of like a savvy that some kids have, where maybe if you're growing up around it, like you have an innate ability and innate, like, I want to say like a sixth sense to, like, if you grow up around having been made into like a content brain all the time, like, I don't know. I feel like you shield a kid too much from the world of content, and maybe I don't want to say you're doing them a disservice, but like that, if that's the economy of the future, maybe you're like taking that away from them.
Yeah.
I don't know if like, are we holding them back? It's for me, that's a question, right? So I have that struggle in my house. Like my kids have a 20-minute time limit on their phones, and that's it. They're 13 and 14, and they're like, I don't think they like that very much.
No, they probably don't like that at all.
But to some degree, I'm like, like, how much is too much? How much is the right amount? I don't know. But like, I feel like just enough to at least be acquainted with what's going on in the world, so that they don't feel like, like I did, which is like no access to anything.
I think that there's ways of doing it. Every kid is different too. I mean, I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and I look at my 7-year-old and I'm like, oh yeah, you could completely handle social media. Like you can, like, you could definitely choose like what is good, what is wrong, what is right. You're not going to go down like some weird rabbit hole. Like, you're great. When I look at my 5-year-old daughter and I'm like, social media will fuck you up. Like you have the kind of personality that like all of a sudden you're going to be on like skinny talk, right? And like, restricting calories or something. So, I mean, I think it's kid by kid. And then also, yes, because technology and the phones are their future, like, they need to know how to use them in like really savvy ways. Like, I'm a parent who, like, we watch a lot of TV in our house. My son has a computer because he wants to play chess with his friend in Israel. So like, I'm trying to be really matter of fact and teach them as we go along. And I think there's a lot of parents who don't do that, to be honest, who are just like, oh my God, the phone is terrible for my kids. And I'm like, well, how often are you on the phone with them, looking at what they're looking at, explaining things to them? Because yeah, this is just how they're going to live in the world. You can't totally shield them from that. I mean, I remember growing up, like, I had a lot of friends whose parents like didn't have a TV in the house, right? And I'm like, they turned out a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Like, those are the kids that were a little off. And meanwhile, like I said, like, I was probably watching 4 to 5 hours a day, and I think I'm fine. I'm relatively okay. So
you've done pretty well for yourself.
I've done all right.
You're doing okay.
Done all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The one thing I do want to ask you about, specifically regarding the trad wife movement, is I have noticed a lot more satirical accounts.
Oh, so many. Yeah, I got sent one this morning that was great. Yeah.
So I'm curious about that, because I think it relates to this idea of media literacy and like being able to truly read the room, because I'm astounded by how many people like do not get it. Like, they think like it's like an actual true trad wife creator. So I'm curious, like, what you think this emergence of like a new subsector of trad wives like means. Like, will it make things more confusing? Do you think it's a good way to kind of poke fun at it? And is it going to be like an area of growth?
Well, I mean, I think that once, something has reached the point where it's being satirized, that it's like really permeated culture. And so, yeah, I've seen a rise of trad wife satire accounts just in the past 6 months. And people send them to me all the time. I do think it's a great way of achieving media literacy. Like, when we can laugh at something, that's a really great way to kind of pick it apart and dissect it and not get so sucked into it. it is funny because I'm seeing a lot of husbands participating in these tradwife satire accounts. And because in real tradwife accounts, you barely ever see the husband. He's like some far off cipher in a field somewhere that you just see like a shadow of. But yeah, in the comedic accounts, you see a lot of them. I do think we're going to keep seeing it. It's going to be really interesting to see where the tradwife stuff goes. I wanted to get this book out as fast as possible. I wrote it last summer, and I wrote it in 3 months. And
Wow.
The publishing industry typically takes 2 years to publish a book, and I was like, nope, it has to come out next summer. We don't know what this movement is going to look like in 2 years. And so they did. They moved fast. We got like a 9-month publishing schedule, which is very fast for them. Because it's constantly evolving. We're constantly seeing new things pop out of it. And the tradwives of today are going to look very different from the tradwives of tomorrow. And even talking about Hannah Nealman, who's the CEO of the Ballerina Farm account. And, I like to make that distinction when I'm talking to. I don't like to call her Ballerina Farm. She is the person creating the content for this. She's really evolved in her messaging. In the early days, she was, in interviews and stuff, just being like, I'm just a mom. I'm just, a wife, just raising my kids here. And now in the interview, she's taking a much more active role. She is saying that she is actually running a business. And so I think that evolution is really refreshing. We're going to see more of it. And I think that'll be really exciting to see.
Well, this has been phenomenal. Jo, I think I might have to read this book.
You're going to love this book. It's so fun.
I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
I love it. I think fiction is an incredible way to get through. I think business nonfiction has had its place, but I think fiction is a great way to really land something emotionally with people and really resonate, some deep truths. I can't wait to read this. I think people should too. We'll link it up, and I'm assuming Amazon is the right place to get it.
Get it, yeah, Amazon, all the places. It's so funny because people send me their receipts so I can give them subscriptions to my Substack and stuff like that. And people are always apologizing for buying it from Amazon, and I'm like, 95% of you are going to buy it from Amazon. Just get the orders in, people. Just get the orders in.
That's July 15th. The book lands, and it's Everyone is Lying to You. And Jo Piazza, we'll have to have you back.
I'll come back anytime. This is so fun.
What's the next thing that you're going to take down? Do you have something in mind?
I mean, I have about 9 things in mind at all times. I just gave 3 book ideas to my editor, Maya, and I'm waiting to see what she comes back with.
That's so exciting. Well, good luck. Good luck on everything. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. This is great.